Hello everybody, Andy here again. Right, out another one of my scenic walks, and a walk I've actually done before, believe it or not. I did it, but without the video camera. I'm down in the town of Winchelsea, down on the coast of East Sussex, looking here with all these cars, and what you're looking at is one of the ancient entrances, the gateways to the actual town itself. What I'm going to be doing today is going from Winchelsea down into the Breed Valley, up through a place called Icklesham, through some nice apple orchards, some great views across to the sea, and back where I started from in Winchelsea. Well, I'll tell you a bit about the town itself. The actual town, this is, believe it or not, this is actually the new part of Winchelsea. There was an old part of Winchelsea which was out to sea. If I come around here, it was actually about 3 miles away, out in that direction, out towards the sea. But that particular part of the town was destroyed by loads and loads of storms that they had in the sort of 13th century, the 1200s. Loads of bad storms which completely altered the coastline around this part of the world, actually, down in the south coast of Sussex. And so they had to build a new town, and this is one of the gates. It was built by Edward I of King of England at the time, and quite a unique town. It was actually built on a grid system, which was very unusual, like the sort of modern American cities, I suppose. I think it's about 39 different grids, and I sort of walked around the town, or the village. It's more or less a village nowadays, I suppose. But they built 3 different gateways that are still standing, or at least this one is, as most of the others are. This is called the Strand Gate, and this one was completed in the sort of early 1300s. So we're talking quite a bit of history here. Well, now in the churchyard of St Thomas's Church, here in the middle of Winchelsea, and this particular church here, so it's undergoing lots of renovation because as you can imagine, it's a few years old, having been built in the sort of 1300s or thereabouts. And apparently when it was at its height, it was actually a very big church indeed, like a cathedral, and it could be seen out to sea. And that's what attracted, I imagine, a lot of the French raids that you used to get in this area. The French were, as we've had lots of run-ins with the French or the British over the years, and they sort of sacked the town a couple of times, sort of raided it, and we've had lots of problems in this sort of area. They had the Black Death here in the 1340s, I believe it was, and loads and loads of trouble with the French throughout the years. But this particular churchyard, up on this side somewhere, I'm not sure which it is, but there's a tree here which has been replaced. And John Wesley, so you might have heard, a very religious figure from the sort of 1700s, he preached his last sermon apparently in this churchyard. Along here somewhere, one of these trees actually replaced the tree that he stood under when he did that. And also, anyone who's heard of the man Spike Milligan, who's a great comic writer, etc., a bit of an eccentric, he lived not far from here, and he's actually buried somewhere in this churchyard. And I can never seem to, whenever I come here, I look for his grave, and I've never found it yet. Well, I left the town of Winchelsea behind me, and up here on the hill, looking over the valley, up here with some of my mates. Look, here they are, having their breakfast, no doubt. Looks quite interested, doesn't he? Look. Come round. This is actually the site of a windmill. You can see that's one of the millstones still here. So literally, I'll come round. That's sort of the back of Winchelsea, is just around there. I'll come back round, and you've got on the top of this hill as well, you've got another one of those beacons that I showed you that we've got in Hastings. Obviously another high point, which is why they put a windmill here. But this is also the site of a Saxon church as well, which was here, the Saxon Church of St Leonard's, so you can tell how old that is. But the windmill originally was built in the sort of 1700s, and you look down into the valley, which is where I'm going to walk to in a minute. Windmills obviously built on high places, and I shall be taking you to another more interesting windmill a bit later on. But hey, there was a Saxon church here, and then they built the windmill on top, and the windmill unfortunately got destroyed. We had a great storm here in 1987, about just over 20 years ago, because it was an anniversary a couple of weeks ago. A really amazing storm, which I do remember. And then the windmill sort of got destroyed in that. But anyway, I'm going to leave these my mates here, let them have their breakfast, and see, they're not bothered by me at all, and I've even got a red top on, so that gets rid of that idea that red rags to a bull and all that sort of thing. So I'm going to leave them to their lunch or breakfast, and I'm going to walk down into the valley behind them. Well, I'm walking down into the valley. It's a lovely valley. As I said about Winchelsea itself, it was originally built on the coast, but then, as I said before, the old town was destroyed by storms, and they built the new town by the River Breed, and the River Breed is just down here. It was like a river port instead of a seaport, which is one reason why the French tried to invade. It was actually one of what they called the sink ports. Supposedly the 5 5, as in the French, different ports, but I think there were more than 5, I seem to remember. Hastings was another one. Rye, another very well known town, especially to Americans. Americans love Rye. Maybe I'll go there one day. And that's just only literally a few miles away from here. So I might say I may well take you there one day as well. Very picturesque. So these were sort of a great raiding territories as well. And also another activity that used to take place along the coastline just here is smuggling. Now lots and lots of smuggling, and I may well do something about that as well. And Rudyard Kipling, who famously wrote the Smuggler's Song, I think it was a poem about smuggling, sort of fantasy, sort of romanticised smuggling, I do believe. Not a very nice business, I know, it's still going on today of course. And he lived not very far from here. Other people who lived actually in Winchelsea itself. Thackeray was a writer, was he a poet and an author as well. And Joseph Conrad apparently used to live in Winchelsea as well. And the actress Ellen Terry, anyone's heard of her from way back. As I said, John Wesley was here, Spike Milligan. So quite a well-known area, and Rye is as well for sort of literary figures and people like that. So anyway, another reason I like about this this walk is hopefully I'll get some apples, so going through some apple orchards, and also it's sort of mushrooms around here, and hopefully a few chestnuts and things like that. So I can and a lovely pub as well, which I should be hopefully stopping off at on the way around, and I'll show you that a bit later and see what sort of food I can pick up, all free on the way around. Right, I'm down in the valley now, and one of the things I like about it down here is it's really quite quiet, and all you can hear normally is the sound of the wildlife. I've got some swans in front of me. I'll pan round, and hopefully if I keep quiet you might be able to hear the sort of crows and that in the distance as I sort of pan round and show you a bit more of the valley. This sort of whole area around here is just to the west of Romney Marsh. Romney Marsh itself actually starts more or less just the other side of Rye. As I said before, it's only a few miles away in sort of that direction as the crow or the swan flies, and that's where that starts. I may well take you there one day as well. But this whole area around here is fairly flat, as you can see, apart from the sort of the hills that are around it. Well, the Breed Valley, as I said, the River Breed comes through here, and this whole area is usually used for sheep. I'll probably show you a few sheep in a minute. But a lovely area, so very, very quiet. Another one of those places that I go to that I hardly ever meet anybody, apart from swans, you know, the wildlife, the cows, the sheep, the swans, the crows, and all those things, which is great. I just found, and also I just found a lovely mushroom as well, as I was talking about earlier on, which I may well have for my lunch when I get home. But can you believe they're actually talking about putting a road right the way through this area? Literally just a few years ago, they're talking about a sort of a bypass. You can see some of the canal there. They were talking about putting a road right the way through here, and which, in my opinion, obviously would have been a bit of a travesty, something that I wasn't happy with. But I can still see that happening. But I hope you agree with me that this is one of those areas that actually needs a bit of preservation. We need modern technology. We need roads and transport links and communication and all that sort of thing. But it does come at a price sometimes, doesn't it? Now I reckon these guys here have got a pretty good job. This is so we've got the river here, as I showed you before, and that's just up there where these two chaps with the orange vests are. That's a railway line which I've got to cross very, very shortly, and just sort of about walking the track, making sure it's all right. And there can't be many better places to do that, I don't think.